All right, we are recording. So, hello, people. Welcome to episode 7 of Drinking OJ. I'm BC with plus 40 Thor. We need to get some sound effects, man. We need to.
Yeah. I need to get the one where he catches the hammer and me just going like that.
Don't worry, one day I will be that good at editing. I'll just do that every episode.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we'll get you sorted. Or we could just get to a point where we hire someone to do it for us, just like, hey, there you go.
Yes, that's what I like to just hire someone.
We'll call it the intern. We'll call it the intern.
Yes. So we don't have You get paid in satisfaction.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. You get paid in satisfaction. That's like that music video, Satisfaction. As they're like doing the drill bit. Satisfaction.
Oh, good.
So what are we doing today, plus 44?
Today, we are talking about Harry Potter once again. We are ranking all 8 Harry Potter movies. Oof.
Dun 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 dun.
Ooh, and I'm gonna say, I know this is a very sensitive topic, and I know I have some very controversial opinions.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Ed? How are you feeling about this?
I'm feeling, man. I mean, everybody. Here's the thing. Before we go into it, everybody's gonna have their own best to worst. Hell, like it might even be reverse order from me to like plus 44. But at the same time, to me, it's like this is the best part about being Harry Potter fans is that we can kind of like agree, disagree, give our opinions, give our pieces, and still love the Harry Potter universe that has been with us for all this time. Like, so yeah, despite the fact that it's controversial, everybody's gonna have their own bit, that everybody's going to have their own preference, what I might like someone else might not like, and what they might like I might not like, but we can still say that they're wrong, whatever. Just as much as they can say that we're wrong. Hey, what do you go figure.
So Ed, would you like to start? What is your number 8 pick, aka the worst one in your opinion? Also, disclaimer, spoiler alert, just like every episode. And also, these are movies, not the books. Partly because I haven't actually read all the books.
Yes, that's another thing. I was like, this is going to be very different if it's the books compared to the movies. Because, I think for me, number 8 for this reason is that the book that I read was one of my favorite books. But the movie just translated so terribly. And to be fair, it was a tough task to do. But then when I listened to the commentary and then saw the behind the scenes of the director talking about the book, I was completely unsurprised about his lackluster preparation for it. And for that reason, number 8 is for me the Goblet of Fire. It is the chocolate ice cream. And I know Joseph, because we talked about this in the past, and that it's one of his favorites. So,
guys, this is the end of plus 44.
Just like that. Just like that. Okay, guys, thanks for coming.
This is the last episode, guys.
Exactly. Just like that, friendship's ruined.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
You totally did, because we've talked about this.
I know, but I didn't know you didn't like it that much. Oh my god.
Oh, dude, I have such disdain for that movie.
Oh. Well, my
so what's your number 1, Joseph?
Oh my god. Okay, so my number 8, one I thought was good. Like, obviously all of them are good, but this one just had the least amount of people. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but this one had the least amount of thrill for me. Like, it got me the least excited. Like, watch the first time, great, but after when I rewatch it, this is probably the one I look forward to the least. I'm gonna say Chamber of Secrets.
Okay.
It was good. It just wasn't all that for me.
I can understand that. Is it just personal preference, or was it like?
I mean, it's a little bit of personal preference, but at the same time, it's just. Normally, when I watch series or movies, the starts are always like the feel-good stuff. And Chamber of Secrets just didn't have that starting good kind of thing. Like Philosopher's Stone, I think was great. It had that feel good start. It really did it. It's high up there, but Chamber of Secrets just, I think they were trying to delve into it too much, trying to be very dramatic, thrill/horror.
Yeah.
Too early on, if you know what I'm saying.
It was going for maturity, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not for me.
Not for you.
Mm-mm.
Plus 44 ain't for that maturity. Keep it with the kids, man. Keep it PG.
No.
Keep it PG-13, okay? We don't need that R-rated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to send nightmares when we send our kids to bed. Not that we have kids, but we were the kids. So number 7. Now this was where it got tough for me because I had to really dig down deep and say, right, Ed, what is your second worst? And I really don't like calling it second worst because it's not a bad film. And here's the thing, guys: Harry Potter, they're not bad films. I say that I really don't like Goblet of Fire, but I can easily sit in front of a screen and watch it with someone. Like, watch it with my main man, J-Man. Like, I would happily watch it. So the thing about these Harry Potter films is that they are all excellent films. It's just, again, it's having to tier them that is the tough part. Having said that, it's one of the more unsatisfying films, and it's one of those things that I think it's the curse that Harry Potter has kind of made itself, in that when you have a movie franchise that's made so much money, you have someone like a studio or Warner Bros. Who want to make more. So what do? You take a story and you chop it in half. So for that reason, it meant that this part 1 of the Deathly Hallows just felt kind of empty.
I knew you were gonna say the part 1. I knew you were gonna say Deathly Hallows. I knew it. Yeah,
it was just, to me, it felt like a setup. Like, and again, I love Deathly Hallows. I love both of them. But again, this is a really hard task where you have to kind of rate them in an order. You're like, oh, geez, right, where do I go with this? But I think for the reason in that it was a setup film, that to me as well was like, it kind of felt like it needed continuation. And that's why they have 2 parts. And again, here's the thing. I love the fact that they did do it in 2 parts. But at the same, I know there's like a lot of double standards going on here. That's where my head's working, is like trying to figure out, oh, where do I tier these? But for me, part 1 was like, right, now for part 2. You had to wait for the conclusion, for the satisfaction, for the payoff, so to speak. And it didn't have the same gravitas as like later films would go on to do. But I think a lot of later films learned from this film in that you need it to stand alone. And unfortunately, part 1 doesn't really stand alone. It promises quite a bit. Okay. An Empire Strike Back, it is not.
I mean, when you say it like that, I understand. I 100% understand that.
Yeah, it needs a setup to explain, because I know it's a lot of people's favorites, and I know I'm going to get some serious heat for that one. But I was like, let me explain.
I mean, I understand. 100% I understand.
What about you, brother?
My number 7 is, I feel like people might agree with me on this, and obviously I can't comment on the books because I've only read/listened to The Philosopher's Stone. I've read and listened to it, but that's the only one I've read and listened to. I haven't.
Go easy on them in the comment section, guys. It's okay. Go easy on them. Go easy on them.
But for me, number 7, I'm gonna just say Order of the Phoenix. Like that's my number 7. Like. Just from a movie perspective, I obviously love the Order of the Phoenix. I love the characters that it introduces. Yeah. I love how it introduces that group. But when you're looking at it just from a movie perspective, it's almost like they just did it to introduce those characters. Actual storyline about the prophecy and the end scene was good. Don't get it twisted, but like just the whole storyline, you could have gone without it. Let's be honest. Like you could have gone without that whole movie, that whole story. Like only significant part in there for me was the introduction of the Order of the Phoenix. That's why it's my number 7. It was still a damn good movie, but
yeah, it is a good movie. To be fair, it is. It's in my top 3. Just to give it a.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You know,
Okay.
just to give some spoilers. Right. So the next one, again, this is where it gets harder and harder. For me, it was the Half-Blood Prince,
Damn. Okay.
and a big part of this was because the book was incredible, and I do not blame Yates for trying to transfer such an incredible book over into the movie, but the screenplay was good. The screenplay was great. The scenes and the cinematography was tremendous. It just was missing some elements of the sixth book that to me were like, okay, this is some of the backbone that really helps the bridge, you know? They got the heart of it. They got like some of the great scenes in it. I mean, that scene, we all know what I'm talking about there, but it's just, I feel like there was just some things just not clicking. And I don't blame Yates. I don't blame him or the production company. It's just such a tough task to take such an incredible book and then try and bring that to the big screen. They did an incredible job. Like, again, that's why I'm like, oh, I don't want to put this at 6, but if I have to, gun to my head, it's there, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I understand because I was also in a difficult position here, and I had a joint 5th place in here, and one of them was Half-Blood Prince. I'm not gonna lie. I
Oh,
agree
really?
with you there. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
100%. Like, for me, it was good, but it's just. It's the main thing was Dumbledore's death. You know, we spot a lot already. Dumbledore's death, that was the main thing, but rest of that movie is pretty. You know, it's good as in it's building up Voldemort being back and all that, but it's almost like a bridge connector and Dumbledore dying. Like that's why it's there.
Yeah.
And in terms of Harry Potter and this whole crew, the Golden Trio, they don't do much moving around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'd yeah, definitely have to be there. Still a good movie, but
Yeah, exactly. And that's like we keep coming back to that. These are all great movies. It's just a tough task trying to tier them all, like from 8 to 1. It's so tough. And then here's the thing: ask us 3 years from now, and we'll probably say differently. We'll probably be like, no, actually, it'll be this and that.
Exactly.
Yeah, times change, but people certainly do too.
So what's your number 5 then?
Right. So my number 5, because it's, for me, you mentioned it earlier, but I was like, it is an underrated film in that it has that. I mean, a lot of people think Goblet of Fire is a transition of when it turns from a kid's film into a adult franchise. For me, I think you hit the nail on the head in that I thought it was the Chamber of Secrets. The Chamber of Secrets was when they started to grow up and they started to figure out that there was a force, an entity outside of the safety net that they had. And it was the first real act of responsibility that I think Harry felt. And not to mention like the mentions of death within their circle, because we've heard about like his parents dying, we've heard about other people dying, but that was in a very far away, like, oh, that's like in another country levels of association. But then we started seeing people get really hurt, and then of course some people even dying in front of them, you know. So it was like, oh, okay, you know, they've experienced death in this, you know, and they've seen it through visions like that they had with Tom Riddle for Riddle's Diaries and stuff like that, and some really dark stuff from the perspective of who would then later on become Voldemort. That's the reason for me why this is an underrated film, and that it's so, like you talk about, scary, but not in a in your face like adult horror film way. It's very much an undertone, very under the floorboards kind of fear that writes within it, and they did that really well from the books to the movie. I think they did that so well.
I get you. It is a good movie, definitely. Like, if you look at the storyline itself, with the students being petrified, Filch's cat, the whole Parseltongue thing that got Harry outcasted, it was good. It was definitely good.
It brought Harry into, this is real. This is a thing. And it made that whole act of responsibility that much harder on Harry.
Exactly.
So for that, I think that's why it's so underrated. Is that a lot of people are like, oh, this is cool, this is cool. It's like, well, what's happening to Harry intrinsically? What's happening to everybody else around him seeing this? You know, like it's a very underrated film for that reason, I think.
Plus, Dobby gets introduced there as well. We love Dobby.
Oh, Dobby, yeah. And of course, you can forget Jason Isaac and his interpretation of Malfoy, Lucius Malfoy.
That was good. That got everyone thinking, though. Well, we already know he was a dodgy guy, but
yeah, he's such good casting, Jason Isaacs. Honestly, the guy is so good. But when he was like Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter, I was like, what a great casting, you know, tremendous casting, tremendous.
100%.
And good sir, what is your number 5?
So obviously, I said joint 5. One of them was Half-Blood Prince. The other one was one I personally feel is damn good movie, but incredibly overrated. I would say Prisoner of Azkaban. Because everyone I know, it's always like, oh, this is my favorite movie, or this is my top 2 favorite movies. I'm like, it's good, but it's okay. You know, you said it before that if you asked me in 3 years, it could be completely different.
Yeah.
If you asked me when I first watched Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban would be dead last easily. But after rewatching it a few times, for me, it's like, I see why people like it so much, but still wouldn't be number 1. I like it, but I feel like it's overrated because of Sirius Black. That's when he's introduced. He's kind of like blamed falsely and everything. And people just fall in love with that character. I understand that. But I feel like because of him, that's why the movie is so good. Because they introduced a beloved character and all that. But it's good, but it's just... It's not boring, because obviously it's my top 5th, but it goes into Harry, a lot of Harry's history, a lot of his family's history in that part, and what was happening, Voldemort's first uprising and all of that. And it's good, obviously, but in terms of film and the storyline, it wasn't as exciting as other movies. But at the same time, damn good movie. It made you cry. Well, I don't want to say cry because I don't cry in movies, but sympathize with Hagrid, with what's his name, Buckbeak. It was a good movie. I love the time travel. Everything is just, it wasn't overly exciting, if you get what I mean.
I get you. Like, it's actually something that I'm going to bring up like later. So you know we're going to talk about it. Because I think you're right in that it's not an exciting film, you know? I do want to come back around to that because I do agree with that for sure.
So what's your number 4? Is it number 4? Yeah, it's number 4.
It's number 4, yeah. Now this is where we start to get into really tricky territory. So now I was like pulling my hair out, like what my top 5 was. So top 4, 3, 2, 1 is just layers of pain that I had to go through, guys, for your entertainment, of course.
To be fair, it's the other way for me. My first 4 were easy for me. It was the last ones that were hard ones.
Yeah, for me, 4 has to be, and now my family are going to be like, are you serious? Because we like watch this all the time. This one film, we watch it all the time, but it's only because it is so satisfying. So before I talked about the Deathly Hallows Part 1 being unsatisfying because it was a setup to the end of a franchise, I put this at number 4 because it was such a great end. It was the book of how you end a franchise, how you tie it off, and how you say goodbye to some really, really emotionally grinding characters. You know, like we watched them grow up in front of our eyes. You know, I know for like people who are in the same age camp as Joe, that might be not be the case. Like it might be a case of like you read Harry Potter, you watched Harry Potter, and you did it as you were growing up, and you kept doing it again and again. It just meant that you guys got to see it in a big frequency. For those who are in my age gap or age group, we actually waited like to see these films like one after the other, and then we would have to go back and watch 1 and 2 to wait for 3, or we would have to read the books or listen to the audio tapes. Yeah, we had audio tapes. We didn't have discs. We had tapes.
If you haven't already realized, Ed is very old, people.
Yeah. I know. Like, what was it? Someone said this the other day. They were like, how do you know so much about all this shit? And sorry. How do you know so much about all this? I know, exactly. Strike one. how do you know so much about all this stuff? And I was like, I've got like 10 years above most people that I talk to about this stuff. You guys got some catching up to do, you know?
Oh my god, honestly.
But yeah, for that
This
reason,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. Hey, man, hey, you know? Like, some people are doctors of like thugonomics. I'm just a doctor of the nerdonomics.
Hey, you already know. You already
You
know.
already know. But yeah, so that's why this is my number 4. Is Part 2 is a great film, so rewatchable, and that it's so exciting, but
Mm.
it's such a great end to a franchise. Such terrific. Like that bit at the end with the 19 years later, I was like, oh man, this is just
Man, it hits you in a different way, man.
yeah.
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
I don't cry at movies, but that got me close. You know, that got me close.
It was the score at the end. It was the score at the end.
Honestly,
It was like, oh no, we don't want to say
man.
goodbye.
Oh, and it's not even just the scene; it's just the fact that you know it's ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, honestly, 100% understand you. 100%.
All right, good sir. Your turn.
My number 4 has already been said by you. This one was very, very good in my opinion. It's Deathly Hallows Part 1. I get you in what you're saying, as in they could have done it in one movie.
Yeah.
It's definitely a slow burner, but I think it works as a slow burner. It's almost gets you to a climactic ending in the end, in when what's it called, Voldemort gets the Elder Wand and everything. But like, I like how it introduces the Deathly Hallows. It does it very nicely. It goes into Harry's history, and at the same time, it builds mystery, thrill. It has that little bit of horror to it, and it's kind of like you're ready for it at this point because it's been building up this whole time, because this whole series is about Voldemort coming back, and it's just like you see them growing up. You see them; they're really taking responsibility here.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely up there. But at the same time, I do get what you mean. How it is a slow burner, which is why it's not at the top, but it's definitely up there. Mm-hmm. So what is your wait?
Right. So just before everybody gets on their high horse, say I swear to goodness, if he says like the first is number 1, no, it's not number 1, guys. It's number 3.
Okay.
So many people like, oh, OG, you can't have like Harry Potter without the original, so that's why it's number 1. No, that's not why I picked for my number 1. Definitely not.
Okay.
Just like I talked about with the perfect ending, it is. And here's the thing that I think is hilarious is that so many people try to reenact an introduction to a franchise after Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, I said Philosopher's Stone, not Sorcerer's Stone for you Americans out there. God. But yeah, if you are American, please like and subscribe.
You already know. Always plug.
Always plug. But yeah, here's the thing. A lot of people tried copying the same formula to try and introduce a franchise, and no one really did it the way that Harry Potter did it. They set up the perfect introduction to the world of Harry Potter, to Hogwarts, to oh geez, like my brain just went blank. Like just to the world that is like the Wizarding World, you know, like we only read about it before that, you know. I remember seeing the trailer. I remember vividly. I was in Germany, like, and I was a kid in Germany, guys. Just before you say anything, and I remember seeing the trailer, and I was like, "Oh man, oh that looks amazing!" And then I remember like my mom like saying that, "Oh, this is actually the book. I'll get it for you," you know. And I remember, and this is the thing, I was born with like a learning deficiency, guys. So what happened was I would have to read the book and hear the audio tape as I was reading the book at a very young age. So that was kind of like my first book, was like a proper book. I'm talking about like from chapter to chapter. Before that, I was doing like analog books. I was doing like viral books. I was doing educational books and stuff like that. But that was like my first book that I read from front to back, you know. I still got a copy in my house. Like it's one of those books that means so much, you know. But the film when it came out, I just remember my head bursting because it was like these vivid characters you have, and you'll know this, like when you have characters in your imagination and then you see them on the screen, you're like, you look nothing like what I thought you would. One of my favorites was like Dumbledore. Dumbledore was probably the one who was so much like his character in the book. I was like, this is really scary. Who wasn't? Who wasn't? There's one person I was like, you look nothing like that. I think it was like McGonagall was one, and Snape. Snape was another one as well. I didn't realize the significance of these actors and actresses as much as I know now, but as time went on, like that's where I was like, oh man, this is the perfect introduction. And sorry for all those studios who tried to copy the magic that is Harry Potter 1, but just didn't work, did it? No chance.
No chance.
No chance.
Honestly, I have to agree with you, bro. My number 3 is Philosopher's Stone as well.
Oh my god!
Like, honestly, like it was a hard decision because I know I'd said my top 4 were easy to choose, but at the same time, it's a bit like top 3 just like swirling around there together. Like if someone's asked me top 3, done Philosopher's Stone, easy, but just ranking them is the hard bit. I know they're my top 3, but I get you. Like it's just the way they introduce the characters. Like you fall in love with everyone: Hagrid, Harry, Hermione, Ron. You want to throw fists to a Snape. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're like, oh son.
Even
don't you be picking up on
Neville, everyone, and it's just like, even especially when I rewatch it, I find out how much I like it because you're like, oh boy, you're in for. You don't even know what's coming your way. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just. And it's like one of the ultimate feel-good movies. Like it's less thrillers, just it's refreshing. Even though it's the first one, when you rewatch them, it's like a refreshing playfulness kind of thing.
It is. It's your childhood. It's to me, it's the perfect capsule of a childhood in a movie because there is the looming like, oh, that's responsibility, that's adulthood, which to me was kind of like the personification of Voldemort. Like that was like, right, okay, yeah, that's a really dark place. We don't want to go there just yet, Let's enjoy this. And Hogwarts was the imagination of your childhood. It was the embodiment of what it was like to be a kid, to experience magic, to experience language, friendship, companionship, loyalty, courage, so on and so forth. These kids were finding themselves and they were finding out what made
100%.
them. And 100%. That's why the trials meant something, because it showed a part of their characters that you just wouldn't see in normal convention. You'd see it in a friendship that was trialed through childhood. And that's why I loved those things. Like in the books, like in the movie, they did so well at it, is that they showed why Harry, why Hermione, and why Ron were such good companions. And it set the friendship up for the rest of the franchise in that crucible that it took them to get to that Mirror of Erised, and then eventually to the disfigured head of Professor Quick.
Honestly, there's never been a movie that I've watched that I wanted to be real more than Harry Potter. Like you just want it to be real.
Like this is a shoot, right? I remember for Christmas getting the wands. Each one of us, like myself and my brother and my sister, we got wands. I wanted so badly for it to be real. I wanted so badly for it to be real. To like say the words and bang, there it goes. Oh man, it's just
I know this was probably a while ago, but I just low-key think this was like last month.
Please, that was when I got the one ring to rule them all. When I was young, I was innocent and thinking, yeah, I'll save the day, I'll do this. And then when I'm an adulthood, I'm like, I want to rule the world. Maybe I knew what Sauron was talking about.
You're Slytherin, bro. I know.
What's wrong with ruling the world, huh?
Oh my god. All right, so number 2, Eduardo. What's your number 2?
Now this is interesting because you mentioned like my top 2 already, and I was like, oof, I'm gonna have to take that dagger and just twist it in my heart, right? So my number 2 is what I think is the best film, like objectively, in that it's one of the best presentations in cinematography that I think David Yates had a real good task in making. It was a complete film, and I think it was the first complete film in a very long time for the franchise. Like, because after 4, I was like, I was checked out. After 4, I was like, this is just. I feel like my childhood just got ripped to pieces with that film, you know. But then my hope was restored, both in the 5th book that came out called The Order of the Phoenix and the movie that soon followed. Like, Order of the Phoenix to me was just a great introduction of characters, like Joe so eloquently put out earlier. But it to me as well is that it set up a reason, it set up a goal, it set up what we call a goalpost in a lot of writing, is that when you have this mystery adversary, this mystery antagonist who, why did he want to kill a child? Why did he want to do that? And then you find out through this, well, this is why your parents have died. This is why you have had an X on your back. And this is why you're the boy who lived, you know? We had so many questions wrapped around it, and we got a lot of them answered through this movie. And we also got to find out like the darker edge that was to Harry's character. And I think Daniel did such a great job acting in this movie, in that you really felt his intrinsic struggle of not sure who to trust and not knowing where to go or what he's supposed to do in all this, until we find out towards the end that, well, your friends are going to help you get through this. You do have people in high places here. You have a support network, but also you know why the Dark Lord is after you now, you know? And now you both have to do this. And it's then him trying to come to terms with that over the 6th and 7th film.
So it's essentially where the armies, the opposing sides are rising. You're getting to see who's on which side, that kind of thing.
Precisely. And then Harry has to find out a very like harrowing secret that honestly I think rocked him a lot more than a lot of people gave him credit for. But Daniel did a really good job in representing that. I actually think he did a better job with his character than the description that JK gave in the books. And I know a lot of people in the comments will be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I think the guy did a good job, is what I'm saying, is that is the best film encompassing. I think it is a really good film. Ralph Fiennes did a great job, and Michael Gambon did an incredible job as well. Everybody just did an incredible job. And we can't not talk about Luna Lovegood, who's one of like the best parts of the franchise.
Ravenclaw, ripping Ravenclaw, you already know.
Ravenclaw. Right, good sir. What is your number 2?
My number 2. Okay, man, they were just okay. You already know I have the love I have for this movie. I'm gonna have to say Goblet of Fire. Like it was a strong debate. It was a strong debate between number 1 and 2. Like I was so close to doing like joint first, but I did not want to be that guy. So I have to go for Goblet of Fire.
You put the hammer down. You're like making a decision.
Exactly, bro. Like it's just I love that movie. Like the main thing for me, storyline, absolutely amazing. I love the concept of the Triwizard Cup. Like everything about it, I just love it. You get to see Harry. He's forced to mature. Like he's maturing over the whole thing, but he's forced to grow up for this year to get through this thing in which he could well possibly die or get seriously injured. Like I love the challenges. I love how he's put it up against these people, how the whole school hates him 1 second, loves him the second. They really put a big social aspect in that movie, and I love it because essentially they're still in high school. Yeah. They're in high school. They are kids in high school. And you really see that in that movie, and I like it because they do so well as him being forced to grow up. He's also still a high school student. You look his relationship with Hermione and Ron's relationship, like all them three. That's just an awkward teenage phase where they don't even know what's happening themselves. Like, and then the way they end it off as well with the whole Cedric Diggory death. Like that's just that's when it gets serious. You know what I'm saying? And then the start as well. The start's really intriguing with the Quidditch World Cup. Like we love Quidditch. We don't get to see too much of it in the movies, but that's definitely a highlight. And then how the World Cup ends up with the Death Eaters and everything. It just like makes you want to watch more. Like that whole movie, I love it. I just love that whole movie, 100%.
It is a good film in that aspect. I will say, it introduces a social psychology of a student and what anxieties they have to go through. Like, which at the time when I was in school, this film was coming out, so it's quite apt. But no, I did like that it did encompass that, and the fact that the other films didn't really do as much, you know. But that's what the director was really good at. He was good at period dramas. He was good at characters in the non-fiction world. So it was quite odd that he was doing this film. If you go back and look at his filmography, you'd actually see like a real interesting, like, wait, what? You know, and then he just did Harry Potter. It's like, oh, what the hell? It was just a very interesting thing that Warner Brothers decided to do. They decided to hire him as this director. But I do like that he did that in introducing. I just can't forgive him for anything else. I'm sorry. Especially when he tried legit. He had a screen written up. He got the CGI guys involved in everything, where they burned the enchanted forest. They were going to do that. They were going to do that, and I was like, "You motherfucker!" You motherfucker.
Strike two.
You motherfucker.
Oh my god.
First, you called one of my favorite books a brick. Second, motherfucker.
Oh, honestly, I get it. I know what you're saying.
Most of my angst is towards the director. It's not necessarily towards the final product. It did have some gripes in it that I was like, can't let that go.
I get you. So, Eduardo, you're number one, which I already know what it is. I already know.
If you guys are like listening up and tallying up as we go along, you already know. So the end of the podcast, anyway. So let's see you guys. Right. Yeah, my number one is Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, Prisoner of Azkaban. Yeah, you saw it coming, man. It's my second favorite book. Like, I loved reading Prisoner of Azkaban. It's the one book in the Harry Potter films that I've read multiple times. Like the other ones I've read like once or twice. Other than that, it's been Prisoner of Azkaban. I reread so many times. The movie. The movie is like a film masterpiece. It's like one of those things that if you could write an essay about a film, you'd probably do so well in actually going through Prisoner of Azkaban and explaining certain scenes and certain composures. It was so interesting, the blend of theatrics and cinematography with the screenplay. Great dark undertone. And the one thing as well that I thought was really interesting about this film is that almost no Voldemort, like none, like no Voldemort like at all, which is so interesting. You went from like a first and second film where Voldemort was like the main thing that was to culminate, and then you had, of course, like Joe was saying, is that you had Sirius Black, who was this big, fascinating, almost like a lackey bad, like the antagonist assistant. And it was just this incredible transition from naivety, ignorance into heartbreak, realization, and just incredible visuals, great scores. Like whoever did, I can't remember who did the compose. I mean, sorry guys, I can't remember who did the composition for this one. I know, bad me. How could I? But no, I think all around secondary cast to the big three. McGonagall did a great job in this. The Weasley family did incredible in this. And then, of course, the addition of Gary Oldman, man. My God. Like, I that was like my first experience with Gary Oldman. And the first thing I remember coming out of the film was like, who played Sirius Black? Because he was so good. He was just so damn good. The backstories as well to the Marauders, which is one of like my favorite additions to the Harry Potter lore, like Peter Pettigrew, like that whole thing.
Honestly, one thing, let me just 2 seconds, like that one scene where they're in the old creaky house and they're about to find out that the old rat is Peter Pettigrew this whole time. The passion in that scene, I just standout scene in the whole series. I'll have to say that. It was just go on. That scene was it was great.
It was based on theater, so the way that they transitioned, you'll notice, right? If you go back and watch this, you can notice this. the way they transition is actually out of a play. The way that they do scores and dialogue, it is a thespian's kind of transitional screenplay. So if you go back, watch the interaction between two people and then the third person diagonally, and then the camera shot is actually helping complement that. So it actually allows the actors to really feel the role a lot more. And the thing I do like about it as well is that they leave the whatchamacallit, the special effects for Peter turning back in at the very end of the score. So it's the end of the scene. You go into another scene. It's just so good. I'm like, oh right, they just really thought this through for the actor's sake, for the characterization of Harry, Sirius, Hermione, Ron, of course, Peter Pettigrew, Lupin, and then of course Severus Snape, who's in this as well. But it's just such a good film, man. I mean, like I said, if you could, like anybody who's watching this who's in school and you have an essay to write for, whether it's arts, designs, or English or anything like that, if you can go in and do an essay on Prisoner of Azkaban, do the research on it, because it's honestly a lot of fun. It's so much fun. Like I know it's like research nerd, but go ahead, because they did put so much thought into this film. So much thought.
100%. And one thing people overlook actually a lot is the introduction of werewolves and animaguses. Like we already have McGonagall over there and stuff, but you never really think about an animagus until like Sirius Black comes in and the dog and all of that. Like I love how they subtly put that in, but it's a big part, but it's not something people often remember too much, you know.
I'm gonna have to correct you, Joseph. It's actually anime guy.
Okay.
All right, Ed.
All right, okay. Oh, okay.
Right, good sir. Go on.
My number one, you've probably already figured it out. Deathly Hallows Part 2. When I was thinking about this is just like wrestling my brain. I was just like, there were too many hits in this movie, like too many points. I was like, how? What? I thought it was such an emotional film, man. Like, oh, there were so many like theatrical slaps in the faces. Like,
yeah,
it's I loved it. The way it was just like, ever since end of Goblet of Fire, there's just been an ominous darkness to every movie, and it's just they build that up, like, and the way they finish it off. What's it called? Snape's turnaround. You see what he truly is. Thingy. Malfoy. You see how Malfoy ends up. Harry himself. Harry going on that journey with Hermione and Ron. And the battle. The battle. Normally, I'm a traditional sword battle guy, sword and shield, but you don't get it twisted. Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 2. That battle is up there, man. Battle itself, like, even if the rest of that movie was bad, that battle would have redeemed it. Like, it was amazing. From the giant thingy statues coming to life and McGonagall having that little scene. Like, ooh, I've always wanted to do that. I love that part. And
I've always wanted to do that spell.
Honestly, like, it's just you know, I had to put it up there. You know what I'm saying? I had to put it up there.
Mate, it's funny because I actually put this as a prediction for your number one, believe it or not. I put this down. I was like, he's probably going to pick he's going to pick number 2. But here's the thing, is because we love action films. We love Marvel. And I would say you love the action side of it as well. Like you said, the battles and everything. I think you're right, though. It is like the perfect cascade of conclusions, you know, all coming together in this climactic, all for nothing battle. And the guy's won. The antagonist has won. He's got the Ministry. He has Hogwarts. He's won. This is their saving grace of a move that really they have only 3 pieces left. You know, like it's in a game of chess. Like, he has the full board. You have 3 pieces. You know, like it just came from a comeback that you can call that film. Is that it just ended such an amazing run. You know,
honestly,
such an amazing run.
And I like the tasteful complexity, because when you think about, there's so many times like it really gets you thinking like, oh my god, Harry has to die. He has to die. That's the only way. He's a Horcrux. Like when I realized that, I was like, oh my god. Like you know what I'm saying? Like my heart just like boom. Like oh my god, he's gonna die. And I think well, the whole thing with the Elder One thinking what's it called? Voldemort has the power, then he doesn't have the power. Snape has the power, but Snape doesn't have the power because Draco's got the power because he's the one who disarmed Dumbledore. It's a whole thing. They do it well. They do it well. That's, honestly,
they tie it up, and that's why it's a great conclusion. Like they tie everything up. So you're like, there's no end. There's no split end. You know, Hogwarts is always going to be Hogwarts. Hogwarts is always going to have its mysteries, but every arc, we'll call them arcs because everybody has their own storyline, their own arc that they're dealing with. You know, and it just ties everything up so nicely. You know, so well. I mean, yes, there are questions at the end, like what happens to Hermione? What does she go and do? What happens to Harry? What does he go and do? You know, but as for the conflict after the aftermath of the conflict, everything kind of gets wrapped up really, really nicely. It is the final gift that we got as Harry Potter fans, you know, and yeah, I think you're right in having it in your top one for sure. It is one of the best action films and best films. You know, totally agree.
I remember looking this up a while ago, but I think quite a few Harry Potters are in top 10, top 15, like highest grossing movies of all time. They are up there. They are up there. I wasn't surprised when I saw it.
Yeah,
like it makes sense.
Here's the thing: before there was a Marvel, there was Harry Potter.
Preach.
Harry was the first franchise, and I know a lot of you guys are saying, "Oh yeah, but there was Lord of the Rings as well," and I'm like, oh, no, hold on. Lord of the Rings had 3 films, and they were all already done. Harry Potter was the first franchise that went from 1, few years laid off, 2, few years laid off, 3. It was the first franchise. There hadn't been anything like it before. There had been sequential films done, but the franchise aspect, no one really thought it would be a thing. You know, like even Warner Brothers were still hesitant. Like up till
That's the thing. Yeah, 100%. Like they would never do something like that now, because it's too risky. Business-wise, it's too risky.
Well, they don't have a franchise setup anymore. You know, it's like you're talking about. It is a business, in that they can put a lot of money into the franchise to start with, and if it doesn't do well, then they won't do it again. You know, the only way that they would try is if there was some sort of boom bust. You know, like we see with Percy Jackson. You know, we all know how that ended up. But, and Aragon is another one. The Dragon Rider films, great series of books. But again, it finished before it even started. You know, like so many film series tried to take off, and it just didn't have the same effect as Harry Potter. But without Harry Potter, we probably wouldn't get something like a Marvel.
True.
I'll leave that with you guys, because when you think about that, you're like, oh, hold on.
One thing I did realize recently is, I feel like, you know how I was talking about getting a new Harry Potter, the rumors of a new Harry Potter film and stuff.
Yes.
When I think about it, Warner Brothers have been incredibly cautious, because I know there's going to be a few people that are going to look at what Star Wars are doing, they're going to look at what Marvel are doing, and go like, oh, we need to make some movies, we need to make some spin-off series, we need to get something on Netflix or something like. And there's countless amount of things they could do. They could easily make something on Marauders. They could make stuff on single characters like maybe Nicholas Flamel. They could do a whole series of movies on even like the Rise of Voldemort the first time. Like there's countless amount of things they can do. It's just, it's risky. Like that's the thing, it's risky.
It is and it isn't, in that how much do they want to contribute to this franchise, because they're already making so much money. So in a way it's like, well, should we do anything just yet, or should we wait till the right time? Because a lot of times there's a reason why the Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter came out at the same time. 2 different studios are trying to siphon from a fan base that was waiting for both, you know, or some that were waiting for just Lord of the Rings, some were waiting for just Harry Potter. Because there are people who are exclusive to one or the other. Strange, I know. But and if you are exclusive to one or the other, please like and subscribe. But
Of course.
yeah, I think you're right in that it is risky, but I think they're biding their time because you notice, like you're saying, they're quiet. You know, that usually means things are being developed. That usually means
Ooh, don't get me excited. Don't say that to me.
that usually means like when people are trying to report something, it means that they're actually it's something that a lot of studios do. It's called breadcrumbing, where they throw breadcrumbs to the left, but you don't know what they're doing on the right hand side. So they'll purposefully throw things out to the media for this reason, like we're trying to get the three amigos back together. You know, they'll see a fan poster that they did really well, they'll share it and they'll like it. You know, like it's something so small, but they'll give enough hope on one side, and then suddenly, like they'll announce or they'll release a teaser trailer during like a Super Bowl ad or something, and you're like, oh, have they been keeping this quiet? And it's like, well, do you remember those rumors that were in the opposite direction? Yeah, you followed them. we are fickle fans, you know.
The thing is, they'll need to get good writers on these things because if they do, it's off book. It's off book. Anything they not anything, but there's a lot of guidance because they go into history a lot in Harry Potter. But anything they do is essentially off book. Like they don't have any book to script it off anymore.
To an extent, yeah, you're right. Because the only lore checker that we have is J.K., which is not good. It's like, oh, as people have come to realize, J.K.'s validity of her own lore is actually quite questionable. You know, her recall for certain characters and certain things has been really it's been troubling for a lot of people who have been fans because they're like, hang on, didn't you say that? And it's like, oh, what I meant was, it's like you're retrospectively changing the lore. And this is unfortunately where Death of the Author comes into it, is that once you put out content and people have made it their own, you don't get much of a say anymore, you know? But that's why I think it's probably better to have screenplay writers than it is to have authors. You should not have authors anywhere near. I know a lot of people might say, yeah, but JK's great. And I'm like, yeah, for lore, she could be great. But if she had lore checkers around her, like people like George R. R. Martin, even Tolkien, like these guys had lore checkers. So people who would go through their stuff and realize timelines and double check. They'd reference their own fictitious writing. And a lot of people are like, hold on, reference. It's like, yes. Because when you have this huge world full of characters, people, places, history, societies, how do you keep track of it all? And the answer is you don't. Like, you have lore checkers around you checking to make sure that that lines up. You know,
true, because they have a lot of stake.
Huge.
With a screenwriter, story writer, it's just another job. They know the politics, they know the ins and outs. With the author, it's a lot more closer to home. It's their creation. It's what gave them their fame, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's one of those things where I could see them doing, and we've talked about this, I could see them doing a Netflix style series about Invermorning. Because that plays off of Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
Will they do it? Probably not. But if you do, guys,
maybe they haven't said anything.
Hey, hashtag plus FortyThor said it first.
Exactly. We got it on recording. We got it in the books.
Yeah, exactly. I'm putting out into the universe, guys. If you agree, Invermorning should be a Netflix or Amazon style series, leave it in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. You know.
And as we leave it, guys, you already know. You already know. All right, we will see you in episode 8. Adios. And record.